Live from the French Quarter, this is Eyewitness Morning News Weekends.
Breaking right now at 8 o'clock. Take a look at this. A man is stranded in a meet with nowhere to go as this street is completely flooded. That's the case for a lot of areas this morning, and it is not over. Good morning, everyone. I'm Katie Moore. Thanks for joining us for this Saturday edition of the Eyewitness Morning News. We're under a flash flood watch until tomorrow morning, so let's get right to it. Chris Franklin in the Forecast Center. Things not looking good on that radar.
No, we are going to continue to see the rainfall. Now, the good news, if there is any good news, is that it's light to moderate rain, so not an excess of rainfall during the day today. But the big problem really is now more focused out to our west and on the North Shore as well, where rivers have started flooding. And you saw from that live image up in a meet, water is flowing very rapidly over roadways, which is why the Weather Service says turn around, don't drown. You just never know. You think you may be able to pass on a roadway, and suddenly you get stuck like that guy. Take a look at our graphic here, because in areas highlighted in green, which is basically all of South Louisiana and coastal Mississippi, a flash flood watch. Ground is totally saturated. Any additional heavy showers, and we would see some flash flooding. Now, where there is flash flooding occurring is more out toward Baton Rouge and more the Baton Rouge viewing area and even farther west from there. Again, our focus really today and through the weekend and even going into next week are going to be those rivers. Take a look at radar, though. Again, not great. You'd like to see this totally dry so we could finally start to see those river levels drop. But even the rainfall that's falling now is not going to add a great deal to the current levels of those rivers. It's certainly not helping things, but it's not adding a whole lot, as we're seeing more of the pockets of heavier rainfall a little bit more focused out toward Lafayette, so much farther away from our viewing area. But around the Baton Rouge areas where you have that moderate to at times heavy rainfall, whereas around southeast Louisiana, our viewing area, you get, well, almost nothing, almost rather dry on the North Shore and even across much of the South Shore and down toward the coast. It isn't until you get more into Lafourche and then some of the river parishes kind of beyond St. Charles, St. John, St. James. You get some light to then moderate rainfall as you head up into Ascension and Assumption. And then even on the North Shore, western Tangipahoa Parish, some very light rainfall, but most of the heavier rains are more into St. Helene and Livingston Parish, and then even heavier again as you head out toward Baton Rouge. Take a look at some of the rainfall estimates. Now, these aren't actual totals. Doppler radar estimates rainfall amounts, and you see these little pockets here of the white. It goes from kind of a purple to blue, then white. These are areas that have seen over a foot of rain in just 12 hours. This isn't looking at the totals from the last several days. This is just 12 hours. Over a foot of rainfall kind of between Franklin and Thibodaux near Morgan City, just southwest of Gonzales, over a foot of rainfall there. This is the reason why all of those rivers are flooding. And again, that is going to be the big concern throughout the day today. The Bogafalai, the Tangipahoa, the Bogachitta, the Tickfaw, the Amite, the Chafuncta, and eventually even the Pearl all are either experiencing flooding now or will experience flooding. We're going to kind of have a full breakdown of all of those rivers, all of the locations, where the rivers are now, what are the flood stages, and when they are expected to crest and then finally start to decrease. So we'll have all that in your full forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
We look forward to that important information for everyone this morning. Right now, dozens of roads are closed because of that flooding and the rising water in the area. I-55 completely closed right now in both directions north of Amite. In Tangipahoa Parish, Highway 40 is closed at the Tangipahoa-St. Tammany Parish line because the Chafuncta River is so high. LA 445 between I-12 and US 190 at the Tangipahoa River. And US 51 is also closed from Independence to Amite City. And in St. Tammany Parish, LA 1077 to Turnpike Road is closed. In Baton Rouge, a small portion of the I-10 eastbound is closed from Segan Lane to Highland Road. You can head to our website and read about all of those road closures. That's WWLTV.com. Right now in Livingston Parish, the Sheriff's Office is urging people along Bend Road in Watson to leave immediately as the Amite River rises rapidly. And we're joined on the phone by their Public Information Officer, Lori Steele. Good morning, Lori.
Good morning.
So we heard yesterday about the 911 center for the Sheriff's Office actually getting water in it. That had to be moved. What's the situation with emergency services in Livingston right now?
So we had a minor glitch with the 911 service, but that is now back online. We're asking that folks use 911 for right now emergencies. We also have a hotline set up, an emergency hotline. That number is 225-686-3996. Folks are calling for information. They're saying, we're seeing the water rising. We're afraid we're going to have to leave and need rescuing. That's what we want you to use the hotline for. So 911 for emergencies only, and that is back online. But we did start taking on water yesterday at our 911 communication center. And just for everyone, that's where our dispatchers sit. They take calls and they route calls. So we did a pretty good job for a couple of hours of using sandbags and shop vacs to keep that water away, but overnight it just came to be too much. And remember, we're at night, so we can hardly see. We have rescue operations going on around the clock. The call volume is very heavy, so we're answering calls as quickly as we can and getting help out as quickly as we can. In the middle of all this, the floodwaters just got to be too much. So physically had to move our dispatchers, had to move our operation to the Livingston Parish Governmental Building, which is where our EOC is set up, our Emergency Operations Center, and that's where we are now.
Lori,
but the main thing that we're doing is along Bend Road. We have our deputies going door to door and asking folks who live towards the dead end to evacuate now because that water is rising fast.
Lori, you said there heavy call volume, obviously. Any idea how many people have been rescued so far?
We did not. I was trying to pull statistics, but because we had to move our operations, we did not. We were not able to pull that for that this morning. But it's very heavy, dozens upon dozens upon dozens upon dozens since last night. We did have our curfew in effect. We're trying to keep people off the roadways. It's dangerous for our first responders, and it's dangerous for you.
Okay, Lori, thank you so much for giving us that update. Obviously a tense situation up in Livingston Parish right now, and one of the other areas that's been hit hard by the rain and the flooding is Tangipahoa Parish, where a curfew was in effect until 6 o'clock this morning there as well. Hundreds have evacuated the area as the Amite River continues to rise. Winton Yates is live in Tangipahoa with the latest on the flooding there. Winton, what's going on with that rescue this morning?
Katie, we are right in the middle of Highway 16, right outside of the city limits of Amite. And as you can see behind me, these floodwaters continue to rise and are rushing over the middle of this road. And right out in the middle is a man who has apparently been stuck there for a few hours. Residents that we've been talking to out here say they got out here a little bit before 6 a.m. They tell us the man was hanging on a tree in this wooded area over to the left of us. And we pulled up here just after 7, and they tell us just before we had pulled up, that tree he is now sitting on fell into the middle of the road, and he was able to make his way onto it. It's thought at some point earlier this morning he may have tried to cross the flooded waters and got swept into those woods. And since we've been here watching him, you can really see how tired he is, how much this weather is weighing on him as he sits out there on that tree. Every once in a while you'll see him tuck his body into his shirt, his clothing there, probably trying to find some kind of warmth. I spoke to the Amite fire chief just a minute ago, and he told us that he is coordinating a rescue effort. As you can see, the waters, the current out here is very, very strong. So they're trying to coordinate a rescue effort to get out there and get to him. They told us they do have a helicopter in the air that is on the way. The chief also told us this is just another rescue to add to the dozens that they've had to do over the past 2 days, Katie.
Unbelievable there. He's going to have quite a story to tell. Thank goodness he's okay. What are you hearing from the other people? I assume people have gathered to try and see what's going on with him. What are you hearing from them about the conditions in their neighborhoods?
Yeah, if we look, pan over here to the left of us, there's quite a few people out here. Some of them are trying to get across the street to the other side. They're stuck on this side. Some have family that's stuck on the other side. And they are just telling us just how quickly these waters rose over the past 2 days, and it was just so quickly. And also right here to the left, we spoke to a man earlier. This debris over here in the left in the woods, this is his trailer, and at this point he doesn't know what's next. He's just kind of trying to figure out what the next step is as these floodwaters continue to rise here in Amite. Katie?
Wow, unfortunately, a lot of people around here know what it's like to see your home underwater, but that has to be a very difficult situation there. Winton will check in with you in just a few minutes.
Yep.
Hopefully they rescue him soon. Over in Washington Parish, the Bogachita River crested at nearly 21 feet overnight. Many roads in the area are not passable, and people who live there say it's a case of deja vu as they continue to clean up from record flooding back in March. They say they just can't catch a break.
I was born and raised here, and normally we had like a flood event probably once every 20 years. Now it's twice a year here lately.
With all the rain and the water and the river rising, it's just March 11th all over again.
More rain is expected for the Franklinton area before it's all over, and we'll have the latest on the situation there in an interview coming up in our next half hour. About 20 Red Cross shelters are open across the region for flash flooding evacuees. In Tangipahoa Parish, shelters are open at the Mike Kenny Center in Hammond, the Amite Community Center in Amite, and Kentwood High School in Kentwood. In Washington Parish, evacuees can head over to Franklinton High School in Franklinton. Thousands of people are without power this morning. In Tangipahoa Parish, more than 4,000 people are in the dark. In Orleans Parish, nearly 2,000. We'll get right back to our coverage of that flooding, but we have some breaking news to tell you about in Jefferson Parish. The Harvey Fire Department is at the scene of a fatal accident on the elevated West Bank Expressway on the westbound side. Officials say a van hit a light pole near the on-ramp at around 5 a.m., and it's still unclear what caused that accident. Roadways are shut down at that location right now, and when we get more details, we, of course, will let you know. Now to more breaking news in the 7th Ward, where a man was murdered in a triple shooting outside of a nightclub. It happened in the 2000 block of North Claiborne Avenue around 1:30 this morning. Police found one victim fatally shot. 2 others were taken to the hospital with gunshot wounds. No suspects are in custody, and the motive is unclear right now. If you have any information that can help investigators in that shooting, call Crime Stoppers at 822-1111. Chris Franklin is still tracking the rain and the storms this morning.
Rain, luckily, is not going to be as big of a deal during the day today. The big problem and big focus now are the river flooding up on the North Shore. Full details are coming up.
Now for the very latest on what's happening in Tangipahoa Parish, we have Parish President Robbie Miller on the phone with us this morning. Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you holding up? How are people in your parish holding up?
Good morning to you, and thank you so much for letting us come on and update everyone. We're working hard. All of our first responders and everyone in the parish that are trying to rescue people and keep people safe are working their tails off and doing a great job. The north end of the parish is kind of, the water's going down. We're in pretty good shape, but it's critical that we have the south end of the parish that's about to experience the March characteristics are going on again. The Tangipahoa River around Highway 190 and Robert, Highway 190 and Highway 445 and Robert is underwater and is moving south just like it did in March. But another concern is that the Natalbany River system on the west side of the parish is flooding, and that did not happen in March. This is critical that the people on that side need to be aware that this is different than March, and that they need to be paying attention and evacuate if at all. If there's the slightest risk that there could be water coming their way, they should evacuate before it's too late.
What areas should people be getting out now? Are there any areas that you're
we're using Highway 40 in Independence south. If you're on the Natalbany River drainage system, kind of close to the Natalbany River, so Highway 40 south of Independence, which would be Stafford Road, Rufus Bankston, Pumpkin Center Road, all the way down to Highway 22. Be highly aware that the water's coming your way, and then back over on the east side, which would be the Robert, between Ponchatoula and Beatico area, south of that area, the same areas that happened in March. Those we have historic data, very recent historic data, that what happens whenever the river crests at 25 feet.
Okay, and the other areas that people need to really watch out for Is that situation critical at this point? Do they need to be getting out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I would say so. It's better to leave and not flood than to stay there and have this water come up and have to have rescuers come get you and try and get you. You know, as much if you can control that yourself and go to a family or a friend's home and wait this out, and you spend the day with them and you don't flood, that's fantastic. But if you get stuck in that home and you can't get out because your house might not flood, but you're trapped, you don't have any place to go, and it's going to be that way for, I don't know if it's going to be hours or days.
In terms of rescues, any idea how many people have had to be pulled out of their homes?
We're pushing 500 rescue missions, which is probably more than 500 people that we have rescued. That doesn't count the people that self-evacuated and took care of it themselves.
We have seen Winton Yates over in Amite this morning where water from the river looks like it's just rushing over the road, just a continuation of the river. It's pretty unbelievable to take a look at.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, that we were out there just a little while ago, and that's actually probably where you stop and where we stop to be able to see it. Where that water's rushing over those two bridges is probably close to 3/4 of a mile actually from the river. Wow. And thankfully, though, that's as bad as it looks right now, it's actually considerably better than it was last night.
Wow. Any idea how many people have either lost their homes or who have water in their homes, and what areas have been hit hardest so far?
So far, it's the ones that have been hit hardest so far from Highway 40 north, but the Highway 40 south is happening right now. It's begun this morning. The number of homes we don't know yet, but I can tell you that in March we reached 5,000 homes with water in them. So I think we're going to see that again.
So these people just rebuilt, and now they're looking at the possibility of having water again.
Yes. As a matter of fact, we've had some already that said we just moved back in the last week or two, and it's already happened to them.
What else do people need to know? It's just awful, absolutely awful. What else do people need to know in your parish in terms of the rescue effort and what help you need?
Well, I think one of the biggest helps we could use is that if you're safe and sound, stay home. Don't get on the roads. Don't go. Don't cause our first responders to have to deal with something that they shouldn't. If you believe you're going to need help, let's try and take care of it now. Don't wait and put it off, because we have people that we're having very difficulty getting to them because the water's now come up so high. It's rushing too much. You can't use the small boats. We are literally, while I'm waiting for the report right now, we have a Black Hawk helicopter going to pick someone up out of a tree because the water's so rushing so much we can't put a boat to go get them.
We're actually looking at live pictures right now, Mr. Miller, of that scene, I guess, where that Black Hawk helicopter is headed. The situation in Tangi is something that I think people really have never seen before.
We here in Tangeville Parish, we have not seen this. This is, we have, our elderly citizens who are telling us they've been here for 70 years that have never seen anything like this.
Wow. Okay. So if you're home, stay put. Yes. Don't make it worse for first responders.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us and giving us that very important update.
Appreciate you.
In Baton Rouge this morning, the rising floodwaters have proven to be deadly. 68-year-old William Mayfield was killed yesterday after he was swept away while trying to escape his car. Neighbors tried to save him, but unfortunately they couldn't. The Baton Rouge Coroner's Office has officially declared the death a drowning.
You saw that water rushing over the roadway in Amite. It only takes 6 inches of water moving to knock a grown man off his feet. And you saw what it's leading into, just kind of a wooded area where who knows what is underneath that water. It actually has a fairly decent current. That's why the Weather Service's big campaign is Turn Around, Don't Drown. You see standing water, you don't know how deep it is, you don't know if it has a current. You're better off just turning around and finding an alternate way home, or just having to hang somewhere else until you can get clear. Now, you may be walking outside, especially around the city, up on the North Shore, down toward the coast, and think, what are you all talking about? There's nothing going on. And it is. We're dry across much of our viewing area. It isn't until you head more into the western part of the viewing area that we have some light showers, and even farther west that you get some more moderate rainfall, kind of from a line around Morgan City to Donaldsonville, Baton Rouge, up toward New Roads, and eventually into Natchez, Mississippi, that you get some more moderate to maybe some pockets of heavy rainfall. And even that isn't very heavy. Again, the rainfall today isn't the big problem. The problem is the rain that has previously fallen and now swollen all of the rivers on the North Shore and as you head in the direction of Baton Rouge and even towards some of the river parishes. Now, again, locally, nothing really going on. We'll get some waves of a few showers here and there, and we will likely see some showers during the day today, but the worst of it is going to be farther west. Really nothing going on in the North Shore. Again, you get some light rain here and there. Down toward the coastline, a few pockets of showers. Again, remember, this is all being driven by a low pressure system, which is off to our west, so we're getting the flow in from the Gulf of Mexico. Plenty of moisture to work with, and it doesn't take much to get these showers going. Look at some of the rainfall amounts. Now, these are radar indicated rainfall amounts, or radar estimated, I should say, but these are just looking at 12 hours. Over 13 inches of rainfall just to the southwest of Gonzales. You get some pockets here nearing a foot of rainfall. Over a foot 2 inches down near Morgan City. And again, that is just in a 12-hour period. That is not looking at the totals from the last couple of days. Big problem is going to be the river flooding. Flash flood watch, meaning we're primed to see some flash flooding even in the metro area because the ground is saturated. We get any more heavy rainfall and we would easily see some flooding. The greatest risk, though, and the heaviest rainfall is more west of I-55. But again, the river flooding is the big concern with all of these rivers highlighted in green, and yeah, even the Pearl River, where we could see some minor flooding come early next week. Maybe by Monday we could see some minor flooding as that river starts to crest. Not expecting nearly as much, but the Boca Chica drains into the Pearl, and then you have all the other rivers that have experienced and will continue to experience flooding. So just wanted to take a look at some of these numbers. This is the Bogafly at Covington. It's currently at 53 feet. Notice forecasted to reach flood stage this evening at 54 feet. Boston Street at the Bogafly, it's currently at 8.13 feet, forecasted to crest at 10 feet. Now along the Tangipahoa, where we've been watching very closely, Kentwood has crested. Amite, not quite there yet. They're at about 24.5 feet. They won't crest until 27 feet. Later this morning. Now that may have to be adjusted from the official forecast. Then looking as well at the Boca Chica River, Franklinton, that has crested. It's currently at 19.6 feet. The flood stage is 12 feet, so it's over 6 feet above flood stage. At Bush, we're still expecting another 8 feet for that river to rise. At the Tickfaw, Liverpool, we have seen rivers approaching record crests. Also down in Holden at Montpelier, we've already seen the river crest. At the Amite River, Denham Springs is currently at 39.85 and it's forecast to get up to about 44 feet. And at the Jafuncta, at Folsom, the river has crested, and at US 190 it is not forecasted to crest until we get into tomorrow morning. And at that point, it's expected to reach about 30 feet. Now, looking at satellite, we do have quite a bit of cloud cover. So cloud cover during the day, if there's any more good news, it's the fact that the clouds and rain will kind of help to keep our temperatures down a bit during the course of the day today. Currently outside, it is overcast, and again, some light rain here and there. 75 degrees. Actually looks like the Newman football team is out there practicing, kind of taking advantage of this little break in the rainfall. But the rains continue across parts of the North Shore, and we have been watching the rainfall and rivers flooding up on the North Shore, and that's where we find Whit and Gates to be live in Amite.
That's right. We are sitting out here. We are right in the middle, right outside of the city limits of Amite on Highway 16. And as you can see behind me, the flood waters continue to rush. It seems like they've receded just a bit since we've been here, but they do continue to move very, very swiftly. The story right now is this man who is stuck on a tree out in the middle of the road. Residents that we spoke to earlier today told us that he's been there. They came out here around 6 a.m. this morning when they saw him hanging on a tree in the wooded area over to our left. We got here a little bit after 7, and when we got here, the tree was already down, and residents are telling us that just before we got here, that tree fell, and he was able to swim and climb his way up onto that tree. What you're looking at right now is the rescue effort that is in progress. The helicopter just got here. The fire chief has been working to get this helicopter here to try to get this man out of the water, because as you could see earlier, the current is very swift, and to get a boat out into that would just be very, very, very hard, probably sweeping anyone attempting to rescue him in a boat into the same situation, into those woods. But as I was telling you earlier, the residents told us that Possibly he was trying to cross this road sometime last night. There's no telling how long he's been in those woods out here on the tree. You can see him slumped over, looking for warmth in his shirt. He's been there for hours. You can really tell just how tired he is from sitting out here. The helicopter seems to be trying to get into place right now. It made a few circles earlier, just trying to gauge, because where we are is in the middle of a narrow road in between some tree lines, so they're trying to figure out exactly how they're going to get in there to get into them, because they have to navigate around some trees and also some power lines. But I'm sure for him it is a welcome sight to see someone trying to get to him and get out there and get him from off of that tree, because like I was telling you earlier, he has been out there for quite some time, possibly a few hours, since early this morning. But he was over in that tree line to the left of them. If you look over to the right here, you can see the fire chief is trying to help navigate the helicopter in there to make this rescue attempt to get this man off of the tree. We were talking to him earlier, and he was telling us this is only one of dozens of rescues that his first responders have had to make over the last few days. He was telling us about a man who had just gone through dialysis, and he was stuck in a truck that was up to his chest. And just before he got there, he said that man told him he was on the phone with his family, telling his family goodbye, because he thought that was the end. He thought that he was going to drown in his truck and be swept away into the woods in these floodwaters. But he was rescued by the AMIT first responders, and we are looking to see, hopefully we are going to see another successful rescue here. You can see the helicopter is getting a little bit closer, trying to get above the man on the tree. I can see someone in the door of the helicopter. It looks like they're looking down, trying to figure out exactly how they're going to get this basket or a rope or something down to this man to lift him out of the out from on top of this tree. Many residents out here looking on, a lot of them stuck on this side, trying to make their way to the other side. They're in the same situation as this man that was on the tree. They're stuck. Their homes are on the other side of this river, but right now everyone is focused on this rescue effort that's going on right now. And you can see he's hanging on as the helicopter is above him. He can feel the winds from the helicopter that is hovering up above him as they try to figure out how to get something down to him to get him up into that helicopter.
Winton, can you hear me? It's Katie back in the studio.
Yeah, Katie, I sure can.
This is an unbelievable sight to be able to see these rescue workers in action. You know, we heard from the parish president that they've gone on 500 rescue missions since yesterday.
Yeah, you're absolutely. This is an astounding thing to see. This is not something you get to normally see. In these situations, you hear about it. You hear about those astounding numbers of having to do 500 rescues, and to actually be able to see what it is that these first responders have to do in these situations is just amazing. And they've been working for the last 2 days. You have to keep that in mind. They have to be absolutely tired because they're having to get this man off of a tree and help that man I was talking about earlier that was stuck in his truck and get people out of their homes. So it really gives you a different perspective on what these first responders have to do in dire situations like this, Katie.
You know, this is what they train for. This is what they know how to do. This is what our first responders, particularly here in Louisiana, are good at. It's pretty breathtaking to see them in action. And, you know, for that man, my heart just goes out to him. He has to have been sitting there for hours. I can't even imagine what's going through his mind right now.
Yeah, Katie, I was talking to some residents earlier, and we were all just talking about just how badly we feel for him, because he has, like you said, he's been out there for a few hours. I'm sure he is tired. I'm sure he is cold. I'm sure he was just at a point where he just didn't know what to do other than just sit there on that tree and wait for somebody to come out there and get him. But and what you're seeing right now is just absolutely amazing. Seeing these first responders put their own lives at risk to come out here and hang from a helicopter to try to get this man to safety, Katie. It's an absolute amazing sight to see this happening.
It appears that those rescuers are from the Louisiana National Guard. I mean, it's almost like threading a needle in trying to get him exactly where they need to get in order to lift this man off this tree and obviously not have a more devastating situation happen. But that helicopter pilot being able to hold that helicopter there exactly in position and get his guy onto the ground. Now, it appears that they're trying to put some sort of life-saving equipment on him in order to pull him out of that tree and pull him to safety.
Yeah, Katie, they are from the National Guard. They came in, they have, since Governor John Bel Edwards did declare a state of emergency in the state, they have been going around the state assisting parishes with these type of rescues. And like you pointed out, they are trying to strap him up so that they can lift him up into the helicopter. And threading a needle, really, it falls short of what this helicopter pilot is having to do right now, because I was pointing out earlier, he is in between a narrow road that is covered by trees and power lines and signs, and this cannot be an easy thing to do. Right when they got here earlier, he made a couple of circles around to try to figure out how he was going to get in here, and they got in here, and as you can see, they have been able to pull. They are currently pulling this man to safety into this helicopter, Katie.
Wow. Wow, what a sight. Look at that, they're pulling him up. That's incredible. You know, and they've had to do this, as the parish president said, 500 times, both in the air and on the ground.
500 times.
500 times, and it's just incredible to see that. Look at that, they've successfully gotten him to the helicopter, and now they can get him to safety after what I can imagine has been a very difficult, dangerous, scary, terrifying night for this man.
Yeah, it is, and as you can see, they just pulled him into the helicopter door. It seems like they're trying to get him secure into that helicopter, and it's just amazing to be able to see a successful rescue like this, and I'm sure he is more at ease, I'm sure, after being stuck in those woods, in that brush for so long. You can see the helicopter is done. People are applauding as they sit here and watch this happen, and the helicopter is on its way. Katie, just an amazing sight to be able to see the Guard come in and pull off a successful rescue, making sure this man is able to go home tonight.
What a true testament to our Louisiana National Guard soldiers and the things that they have trained to do and how good they are at them. That's incredible. Winton, thank you for keeping us posted there. And of course, we'll check back in with you in a little while. We
Absolutely.
Also saw there, you know, a family's home swept away. It's an incredible sight. Thank you, Winton. Well, Louisiana's first family is among those who have evacuated. This is what the governor's mansion looks like right now. We'll have the latest coming up after the break. Take a look this morning at this scene in Walker, Louisiana. That's outside of Baton Rouge. The floodwaters were so fierce there yesterday, caskets came up from underground and were floating in St. Mark's Cemetery. This weather hits so close to home for Louisiana's first family. Take a look at this. Governor John Bel Edwards spokesperson Richard Carbo says floodwaters have seeped into the basement of the governor's mansion in Baton Rouge. The governor's family has been relocated, at least for now. Governor Edwards will hold a news conference at 10:30 this morning to discuss the ongoing flooding situation. People across the area are starting to pick up the pieces this morning after yesterday's harsh storms. Unfortunately, it's not over. WWL-TV crews are witnessing firsthand some of the worst flooding. We'll show you more of it coming up next. We have some more breaking news this morning. Just moments ago, of course, we saw the Louisiana National Guard rescue a man just outside of a meet. Winton Yates is now with that man. He joins us now live with him Again, just outside of Amite this morning, and I can only imagine that he has a tremendous story to tell. Winton, are you there?
Yeah, absolutely tremendous. We caught a little bit. He's over speaking to the fire chief at the moment. He was telling us earlier today that he had was trying to cross the road. And do you mind if we get your story real quick? How long have you been out there?
Since 11 o'clock last night.
Tell us what happened. How did this all start?
When I was driving across, they had a little bit of water on the road, and all of a sudden it rose up real fast, and my truck started floating and pushed me right into the woods.
And you said you've been out there since 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock last night, yeah.
Were you hanging onto a tree?
I was standing on the roof of my truck, and I was about up to my waist in water, and the current was really strong, so I was holding on to some branches, yeah.
What were you've been out there since 11 o'clock. What was going through your mind? What were you thinking? You've been out there for hours.
Thank God I had my cell phone, pretty much. I called 911 and I was just waiting for them to come get me. They said they couldn't really get to me at the time, I guess being dark and the current, how it is. So I just waited, that's it.
Just tell me about last night. What was it like sitting there all night?
It was scary. It was scary for a while. I didn't know what to expect. A lot of debris kept floating by me and hitting me and stuff, and I thought the current was so bad last night for a while because of the rain. I thought I was gone for a minute.
And then at some point earlier this morning, the tree actually fell. Tell me about when that happened.
Oh, when the tree fell, the current actually stopped where I was at, and I was able to swim to it, and I crawled all the way to the middle of the street and just waited. I so everybody could see me because I didn't know if they even knew where I was at.
I mean, what were you thinking when that tree fell? Were you thinking, this is exactly what I needed, just somewhere to take shelter?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, God sent, to be honest with you. So.
And we saw you kind of covering yourself up. Were you just tired, just cold, just
freezing? Yeah, just sitting in that water all night. Yeah, absolutely. I got really cold.
What were you thinking when you finally saw the helicopter show up to grab you?
I didn't think it was for me at first. I just thought they were flying by, to be honest with you. And when they did, I was very grateful.
Relieved when you got
pulled
up?
Yep.
Well, we're glad you're okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking to us.
Absolutely.
Just an amazing story of someone swept up in these floods that are going across Louisiana right now. Just a great reminder that if a road is flooded out, please do not try to cross it because you could end up in a very, very deadly situation. Katie?
9, almost 10 hours he was out there on that tree. That's unbelievable. Thank you, Winton, for that live report for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we will be right back with much more on the flooding. Welcome back to the Eyewitness Morning News. We're, of course, following all of the flooding, mostly on the North Shore. We want to go back to Winton Yates this morning, who just talked to a man who we saw rescued live on television by the Louisiana National Guard. Apparently, he was on a tree for 10 hours. Winton, unbelievable story.
Katie, absolutely outstanding. Just an outstanding story of these first responders that are out here taking care of people, and also people that are getting swept up in this terrible weather out here. This is the man right here that was sitting on that tree. He was sitting in those woods for nearly 10 hours. He said it happened about 11 o'clock last night when he was going across in his truck, and the floodwaters just absolutely became overwhelming and swept him up into those woods. We have the video of that rescue. He had been hanging onto a tree. A tree fell earlier this morning. He was able to climb onto that tree. Hours later, the guard was able to come in with a helicopter, put somebody down on a rope and get him out of there off of that tree. Unbelievably, 10 hours later, we spoke to him. He is in good spirits. He says he is not hurt, and he seems to be just fine after spending nearly 10 hours in floodwater in the trees. Katie?
And something that struck me about his story is that he said he's glad he had his cell phone, but it took the first responders that long to be able to get to him. Describe what it's like around you so that people can get a sense of why it may have taken them that long to get there.
Yeah, he did tell us that he did have a cell phone. He was able to make a call to 911 to let them know that he was out there on that tree, but they weren't able to get here for many hours. That's because there are hundreds of rescues going on. There are flood waters everywhere. Amite is flooded. There are lots of people that are needing help, and they are having to do a lot of work. And these first responders that are out here are getting assistance from the Guard, but they are all working. They are all tired. They are all trying to get to everyone that needs help. And this is a great example of just how much work they're having to do, because this man had been sitting in flooded woods on a tree for nearly 10 hours.
You know, hearing from him too, he also seemed to indicate that there was concern about what all was around him, that first responders were kind of saying, we don't know if we can get to you. We don't know if it's safe to get in there to get you. And so that's another reason that it may have taken them quite some time to get there.
That's right, Katie. And as you say that, I actually have the fire chief here in Amite that can give us a little bit more information about this rescue. Thanks for talking to us, Chief. Tell us a little bit about this rescue and how it all went down when you guys got out here. You saw this man on the tree and he needed some help.
Well, obviously you can tell this is not an everyday occurrence for us here in Tangipahoa Parish, but I'm just part of a team. We're led by our parish president, Robbie Miller, and we feel like we're pretty well equipped for whatever arises, and this is a classic example of it. We have great coordination out of all of the first responders in the parish, and as well as neighboring parishes. Our state agencies provide tremendous support to us. As you can see, we got a representative from the State Fire Marshal's office on the scene here with us, and I was working through command located at our Emergency Operating Center at the Council Annex. I was made aware of the situation out here as I was making a survey on the east side. Overnight, I moved a truck to the east side of the river because we didn't have any fire protection out here, and that was just some of the planning that our people do. And when they made me aware of this, obviously I came down and evaluated the situation, and there was only one way to safely get him out of there, and that was to airlift him. And I called my command and told them I needed an airlift, and they made arrangements to get us a helicopter out here, and I'm pretty sure that was a copter out of Hammond Airport. I don't have all the details on it, so I'm not going to say the name. Obviously, you're on scene and you got first-hand information, so I still got a lot of information I've got to get, but it couldn't have went more beautiful. I mean, the guy was smart enough to stay where he was. He was stranded, because I can tell you the consequences. Had he tried to leave from there, I've seen it happen. He would have been washed away and drowned in them woods out there. So he was smart by staying where he was, and the operation went smoothly without any hitches, and I just thank God for the outcome of it.
Smooth operation, but let's talk about how difficult the operation was. I know those waters are moving very quickly, so you couldn't go in there with a boat, and you made the decision to go in there with a helicopter, but how difficult is it still, even though you had the assistance of a helicopter?
Well, you can look here, because y'all did a good job of being in the right spot at the right time. You got a tremendous amount of power lines right along the road shoulder on the north side of it. You got tremendous amount of trees with overhang over the highway. So that pilot did a tremendous job of setting it where he needed to set it, with a tremendous amount of risk around what he was doing. And like I said, just thank God everybody's out safely and headed back to the house. And that's what we try to do, make sure everybody goes home at the end of the day.
And speak to the fact that this happened to him about 11 o'clock last night. He was trying to cross the road that was flooded. What do you think this is say to people that are stranded, that are thinking about trying to go across a flooded road?
The main thing that I want to emphasize, this had road block signs up here, road closed. They had 2 barricades across, and sometimes people don't really realize the impact of what that has. And this is a classic example. It said road closed. Come around the road closed sign and was going forward the stream, you know, on his own, and this is the consequences you have to suffer. So I do take this opportunity to urge the public, wherever it may be, if the sign says road closed, it's there for a reason, and we all know what road closed means. Don't cross it. And this is the consequences of what could happen to you if you do that. So, because we have state inspectors that do regular rounds, and they make the decision when to close the road, and when that engineer makes that decision, it's very unsafe, and you're at high risk anytime you go around a road closed sign.
Following this herring rescue, talking to him, he seems to be in high spirits. He seems to be unharmed. What's your evaluation of that? And he's been out there for nearly 10 hours
First of all, he's in good physical condition, and he's very mind strong, because overnight you might just have a tendency to turn loose and panic and say, I can make it, but he didn't. He was very calm, good physical condition, and made good decisions other than going around the road closed sign.
And we were talking about earlier that across the state, hundreds, thousands of rescues going on here in a meet. About how many rescues have you guys had to do so far?
Probably, as we're speaking right now, we've got men in operation doing rescues right now all over the parish, and it's starting to move to the south end a little bit more. To give you an answer on the total, I hadn't been in the office, I hadn't been where statistics are since early yesterday morning, so it's been a pretty long period of time here. But if I had to guess, I would say already, I'm not going to guess. I would rather be accurate with the statistic that I give you, and I'd have to get that from command.
And we were talking earlier, and you were so proud of your first responders, your guys, your women that are out there doing these rescues and making sure these people get home safely, even once these floodwaters are gone. Just speak to that. How are you feeling right now, being able to watch your men and women go out here and do a smooth operation like that, even though they've been doing this for hours and they're tired?
Well, that saying that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, well, I don't have no weak links in my chain. I got a group of men and women that are just fantastic in the training and the discipline and in the aggressiveness that they happen, and the disregard for their safety and well-being when it comes to saving a life. They lay it on the line, and they do it on a regular basis. And yesterday we had, I related to you when we were talking earlier, we had a truck got swept off the road. The man was an elderly man. He was speaking to his family. The water was steadily rising. He told them, well, this was it. I won't be here anymore. And the water was just below his chin when I had two men in a boat, a specialized boat, that made a circle in very swift water with rapids in it, swung around, bounced against a tree, which is part of the plan, up against the truck, snatched him out of the truck into the boat, and they was out within like 5 to 7 minutes. The whole time they were in there, I was just standing there praying, because at any time anything can go bad, and the good maker above is in control of all of it. So he allowed us to do what needed to be done to save that man's life, and that's just a classic example of what they do on a regular basis.
And like you were talking about earlier, this is not only dangerous for the residents, the people who are out here stuck, but this is dangerous for the people, your people, that are having to go in and do these rescues.
Absolutely, and we're well aware of the fact what our objective is, and that's saving lives and protecting property. And the people that we serve, they come number one when it comes to that. And it's just as dangerous for them, though, with these conditions developing as quickly as they did. This all happened within a couple hours yesterday afternoon, the closing of Highway 16 because of the Tangipahoa River. So to address your question, yes, it's very dangerous for the people that we're saving, and certainly it's dangerous for the rescuers and first responders. And when I say that, in this operation, it's military, it's medical, it's law enforcement, it's fire, and it's the government agency that is a coordinated team effort that we're very proud of here in Tangipahoa Parish.
Well, Chief, we really appreciate you speaking to us for a minute. We appreciate all the work that you guys are doing out here.
I just had to go yes when that was over, because that was another successful operation where nobody was hurt and everybody's going home.
It looked beautiful. It looked beautiful. Thank you, Chief. And Katie, speaking to the Chief, you can get a sense of everything that is going on out here. Having to do these harrowing rescues of people in very, very dire situations. Like we were telling you earlier, just to recap, this man who tried to cross this stream about 11 o'clock last night. He says he has a fairly large truck, which has now been swept into the trees to my right, your left. And it was about 11 o'clock last night. He said he stood on top of his truck for as long as he could until he was swept out. He held onto branches in those woods for hours until early this morning. We showed up on the scene shortly after 7 o'clock, right after a tree had fallen. The tree right off in the distance there, a tree had fallen, and he was able to climb up on that tree to safety, and he sat there for hours. You could see him shivering from being in that water for nearly 10 hours. He was trying to keep warm in his clothes. He had tucked himself up in those clothes until a guard helicopter showed up, they were able to thread the needle, come down in between these trees and these power lines. We had that video. We were here. We were able to show you those pictures live. They were able to send somebody down on a rescue line, grab him, hook him up, and bring him up and out to safety. And we were able to see all of that. Just a testament to what all of these first responders are doing as these floodwaters continue to fall and flow across southern Louisiana. Katie?
You know, Winton, something that I'm thinking as I'm hearing this story from both the fire chief and from the man that was rescued is all of the stuff that was floating by him. I mean, he's sitting there in the dark, pitch black, for hours, clinging to a tree, not knowing whether or not something's going to hit him. And, you know, you showed us earlier that incredible video of that trailer that had been swept away. Somebody else's home just leveled in these floodwaters. I mean, you know, I can't even imagine what it was like for him to be there.
Yeah, and this is a back road. There's not very much light back here, if at all, at night. So I'm sure it was pitch black in those woods. And you're right, we talked to that man earlier. He didn't want to go on camera, but we did sit and talk for a minute as we sat there and looked at his trailer, which is completely demolished and underwater, just to show you the power of this water as it sweeps across this road. And right next to it is a Dodge truck that is flipped over on its side. Another truck, another car down the just less than a block away from it also flipped over. Just shows you the immense power of Mother Nature as it sweeps across Highway 16 here outside of Amite.
Now, I know, Winton, that you're a little bit away from where you were earlier, where we could see that water flowing across the road. It looks like there are some people gathered back there. Are people leaving that scene now? Are they coming to see the damage?
A lot of people have left. They're actually sitting in their cars. A lot of the people that are out here that were watching that rescue are actually stuck. Their homes are on the opposite side of where this is flooded, so they're kind of just waiting to see what happens and how quickly or how slowly the waters recede. As we've been out here, it has receded quite a bit at a bit of a steady pace. So they're just kind of sitting out here and waiting, and they just happen to be here while that rescue was going on.
You know, we keep hearing all of these incredible stories of these rescues. Just hearing the fire chief talk a few minutes ago about, you know, them having to put their lives in danger, which they're doing over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And you have to just take a minute to pause and think about what all's going on out there, and the fact that they're working constantly. It's rescue after rescue. I mean, I can imagine that Black Hawk helicopter's gone on to yet another rescue.
Yeah, as soon as it came up, it came back down in an open spot, let the man off, and was back in the air on its way to another rescue. And you're right, this is putting them at risk. If you see the video from that rescue, you could see just how dangerous it is. They were literally threading the needle with this helicopter, coming down in between a narrow road, in between trees and power lines, and having to lower someone down across a rushing stream of floodwaters. This is not only dangerous for the residents here, it's also dangerous for the first responders that are putting their lives on the line to come out here and perform these rescues.
Winton, you know, we heard Chris Franklin earlier today say that 6 inches of water can knock a grown man off his feet. What was it like standing next to that rushing water over the highway?
It's incredible. You really feel the power. You're not even standing in the water, but you can really feel the power of this water as it goes by. You can see where the road is buckling and the concrete is coming up, and it's really an amazing sight to see the power of this water cresting on the side of a road, cresting in a place where there normally is not water.
It's incredible, and we heard the parish president earlier say that, you know, parts of Tangipahoa Parish further to the south are expected to get similar flooding as the day goes on and into tomorrow.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And keeping that in mind, it's a reminder that when we say, or when first responders and law enforcement says, please do not try to cross these flooded roads, even if you are stuck and you're trying to get home, please do not cross these flooded roads. The water, it may look calm, but it is very powerful, and you can get swept up very quickly. As with this story, the man, he has a very large truck and was still swept up into those woods and ended up in the woods for nearly 10 hours, Katie.
I can't imagine the panic that went through his body, his entire being, as his truck started sliding off the road. You know, something else that struck me is that the fire chief was saying that he did all of the right things, of course, after passing a road closed sign, but he did all of the right things in that he didn't try to leave that tree. He held on, he waited for help. Thank goodness he had his cell phone, right?
Right. That's the other thing. I think in these situations, it's also prudent to say, make sure you have everything in order. When, you know, officials say it's time to go, make sure you have your things ready to go, a charged cell phone, your clothes, whatever you need to get out of the door and get to where you need to go. Make sure you have those, because that cell phone is probably what saved his life. He was able to call somebody and let them know that he was sitting in the woods. Even though it did take them a few hours to get out here to get him, he did make his presence known. He was able to let them know that he was stuck out here. And I'm sure those 911 operators, credit to them, were able to tell him to stay put, stay where he was, try to get to a spot where he could sit and wait and not try to continue to move and make it worse and possibly get swept even further in the woods where rescue may not have even been possible.
All right, Winton, incredible video, incredible stories coming out of Tangipahoa Parish. Thank you so much for bringing them to us this morning. We'll check back in with you a little bit later.